Now, does it vary whenever you get to a specific location? Is there going to be someone there kind of helping you, guide you through it, since it may vary if you're at a specific location, or is it just kind of you're there and you got to figure it out?
No, there's pretty much people to guide you through most of the way.
Right.
Fortunately, there haven't been that many disasters, so I can't give you 100 experiences.
Exactly, right.
That's a good thing.
That's definitely a good thing.
Yes, but on some of the experiences that I have been to, it's generally well coordinated.
Okay.
Because the Red Cross has volunteers like myself, but they also have staff members.
Right.
And those staff members are the key coordinators.
Right.
So you have to rely on management, so to speak.
And like we spoke before, I think it's important that people do get more involved and are proactive, because whenever 9/11 happened, everybody was standing in line to give blood, and which was really great, but why can't people give blood, people who can give blood, why can't they give blood any other time of year? I mean, there's plenty of opportunities to give blood. We have a shortage of blood right now, and if people who were qualified and who, fit the criteria to give blood, if everybody gave blood when they could give blood, or even once a year, I don't think we'd be in a blood shortage right now.
Going back to what you said earlier about when people have children and how they're not even prepared to help their children in case there's an emergency, it's really about proacting.
Right.
And you mentioned that at the top of the show. If you anticipate what could potentially happen, then you could be able to give blood in advance of the need of blood.
Right.
If you anticipate what can happen to a child based on the variety of injuries and difficulties out there that young people face, you're prepared for them.
Well, and that's initially how I started giving blood. Was my grandfather was really sick and he needed blood, and I happen to have the same kind of blood type, and I thought, well, why am I not giving blood more for somebody else? And he unfortunately passed away years ago, and I still give blood because I thought, there's somebody else's grandfather out there, somebody else's someone, relative of some kind out there who needs blood, and here I have perfectly good blood, and why not donate it? I'm not using it for anything. So if everyone just kind of had that mentality of let me go out and do what I can, it may just be a little bit, but at least I'm doing what I can, then I don't think situations like blood shortage would happen.
You're absolutely right.
And also, I think you mentioned before, instead of going to a movie this weekend, go donate blood. I mean, if you didn't go to a movie once a year and just donated blood once a year, I mean, it takes about the same amount of time. It takes, tops 2 hours to donate, well, depending upon the line, but from when you start to when you end, it's only about 2 hours, and give up on your entertainment just one time a year, and blood shortage would be not a shortage.
That's right.
Yeah.
You can give blood probably once every couple of months.
Yeah, I think it's like every 60 days, 54 days or something like that.
It's about every 2 months.
Yeah.
And maybe you go to the movie after you give blood. You don't even have to miss the movie.
There you go. Or before you give blood as a treat, because after you give blood, you may not be, all energized to be in a movie. They do give you cookies and stuff, so to get your energy back up. Tell us about these steps for preservation.
The anticipation of a disaster is the key element. What could happen where you live? If you live in Southern California, the earthquakes, the fires, the floods, the landslides, where do you live?
Right.
What is most likely going to happen in your community?
So that is you looking around and also being just more aware.
Right.
And more observant.
Right. Now,
what can happen.
Many disasters we cannot predict.
Right.
9/11 being one of them. But let's just suggest that if you live in an area with millions of people, something could happen where hundreds of people get hurt or potentially killed. And what can you do to ease the situation as a member of that community?
Right.
So you anticipate what likely will go wrong or could go wrong.
Well, how are you supposed to anticipate? Like, if you just moved to a city, you don't know anything about the city, or even if you've lived here years and if you're not in Los Angeles and the city's not known for earthquakes or something, how do you know what to anticipate?
I would think that you have to take a look at your surroundings, basically. I understand what you're saying, but if I live in Philadelphia, which is where I came from, we really don't have earthquakes. But occasionally we get hit with a hurricane or floods.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so there's really something everywhere that could happen.
Also, you could just watch the news and realize if there, are floods in your area, at specific times a year or something. I'm not, saying watch the news all the time, but I'm saying, like, if you watch the news and you see that there's a flood, on this specific highway or whatever, then you know that the area is prone to floods.
Right.
That's just another way to get information. Or you could probably visit the Chamber of Commerce wherever you live and find out more information about your city and what goes on.
Absolutely. And the Red Cross.
Yeah.
The Red Cross is a perfect place to find out what potential disasters are likely in your area.
Yeah.
It could be a nuclear reactor in town, or it could be an oil facility. I mean, there's a number of things that, if you're in Seattle, right, that, it could be oil off the coast. And I mean, I'm not suggesting that we live in fear and paranoia.
Right, exactly.
But it's better to be aware of what could happen and prepared for what could happen than not.
Right.
Basically, because I mean, that's where 9/11 left us. I fortunately was prepared.
Right.
Not for 9/11. But because I took these Red Cross courses, I knew what to do. I felt like I could contribute. I did contribute.
How did you contribute?
I was in New York on 9/11. I was on vacation, and I was able to take action based on my experience with the Red Cross.
Right.
For one thing, if I wasn't certified, I wouldn't have been able to go down to Ground Zero and help out. Manhattan was cut off from the other boroughs of New York. They immediately shut down the bridges and tunnels. Right. No planes, trains, cars coming in or out. So there was only a local Red Cross branch and a local Salvation Army branch to effectively serve all of Ground Zero. Just think of the thousands of people down there.
Exactly.
The firefighters, the displaced workers.
So what were you able to do for them?
Well, I mean, my contribution, if you will, was primarily serving bottled water.
Right.
Right.
Which is a necessity. Absolutely.
There was a lot of smoke. There was a lot of soot. It was a really messy situation. And
yeah, but you also don't want people getting dehydrated, because then they wouldn't be able to help anybody else.
Absolutely. A lot of the firefighters, especially, were stunned by what had happened. They lost a lot of their coworkers, and it was not a happy situation. And they really found themselves kind of unable to cope.
Right.
And when you can't think clearly like that, and you have all these elements coming at you,
you forget to drink water.
You do.
You forget to eat.
You do.
Because you're like, I got to get to the person. I got to get to the person.
There was a lot of that. There was a lot of that. Trying to help others and not taking care of yourself.
Which is the priority. I mean, if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else.
Right, and that's the way I looked at it. If these firefighters don't drink water, they're not going to be able to help anybody.
Exactly.
So my primary goal was to carry cases of bottled waters, 3 at a time, for about 4 blocks, because the Red Cross truck was only able to get to the perimeter of the damage because all the streets were covered in trucks and smashed cars and airplane parts and building pieces, and I mean, it was just a mess.
Right.
So we couldn't even get down to Ground Zero, so we had to park on the perimeter. I carried the water down to the World Trade Center foot, or what was left, and handed out bottled water like a ballpark vendor. Basically is what happened. And I made them take it. I made them drink. I could see that there were no fluids around. There wasn't anything else. And
so how did that make you feel by being able to help them out? Well, in a tough situation, or I mean, if you had another experience, not even counting for 9/11, but just how does it make you feel when you're able to help somebody out in that area when they need help?
It made me feel good that I was able to contribute. It's not something I wanted to do. Right. I didn't, you don't want to be there. I mean, your natural reaction is going to be, lock the door, bolt it up, watch TV and see what's happening next, get into a safe place. But then there's the reaction that you have as a member of your community that says, this has happened, even though I don't live in New York, I live in LA. I can't turn my back on it. Right. I'm trained to do this. It's a sense of duty. And you feel good when you go out and you perform your sense of duty.
Right.